Good evening, and thank you for choosing to spend this quiet time with me tonight. I hope you found a comfortable position, perhaps with your pillow adjusted just right, the lights dimmed low, the day's concerns finally fading into the background. Tonight we're going to explore something you probably don't think about often, the history of washing clothes. Not a tale of dramatic inventions or sudden breakthroughs, but a slow, patient journey through thousands of years of one of humanity's most essential and repetitive tasks. We'll move slowly through time, kneeling beside prehistoric rivers, standing in Roman laundries filled with the smell of urine and wet wool, watching medieval washerwomen scrub clothes in icy water, observing the first clumsy washing machines, and eventually arriving in modern laundry rooms where machines hum quietly through their cycles. We'll feel the cold river water on our hands, smell the harsh lye soap, hear the slap of wet fabric on stone, experience the ache in backs and shoulders from hours of scrubbing and wringing. We'll meet the countless women, mostly women, who performed this back-breaking labour, day after day, week after week, year after year, their hands cracked and red from cold water and harsh soap, their backs bent from constant bending and lifting. There's no hurry. We have time. The washing can wait until morning. If this story helps you rest tonight, I'd be grateful if you'd consider liking or subscribing. I'm always curious where in the world you might be listening from. Feel free to leave a comment with your city and what time it is there. But there's no pressure. That can wait for tomorrow, if at all. For now, adjust your blanket one last time. Let your breathing slow. Close your eyes if you haven't already. We're going to step back in time tens of thousands of years to a world where clothing was made from animal skins and plant fibres, where dirt and sweat and bloodstains were simply part of life, where the only way to clean anything was with water, rocks, and your own two hands. Let yourself drift back with me. There's nowhere else you need to be. The river and the stone. Imagine you are kneeling on a flat rock beside a slow-moving river, perhaps 20,000 years ago, somewhere in what will one day be called Europe. The sun is just rising, burning off the morning mist that hovers over the water's surface like a living thing. The air is cool, autumn is approaching, and you can see your breath in small clouds. Around you, the forest is waking, birds calling, leaves rustling in the breeze, the constant murmur of the river flowing past. You're here to wash. Beside you on the rock lies an animal skin, a deerskin tunic worn for weeks now, stiff with dried sweat, darkened with dirt, stained with old blood from a hunting accident. It needs cleaning, though what clean means to you is different from what it will mean to people thousands of years from now. You're not trying to make it pristine, just less uncomfortable to wear, less offensive to smell, less likely to harbour the tiny biting insects that thrive in dirty clothing. You pick up the skin, heavy and stiff in your hands, and dunk it into the river. The water is shockingly cold, making your fingers ache immediately. The skin darkens as it absorbs water, becoming heavier, more pliable. You pull it out, squeeze it, dunk it again. Water streams from the leather, running down your arms, dripping from your elbows. The cold is intense, penetrating, impossible to ignore, but you're used to it. This is simply what washing requires. Now you begin the real work. You lay the wet skin across the flat rock and begin rubbing it with your hands, working the leather back and forth against the stone's rough surface. The friction helps loosen the dirt trapped in the grain of the leather, the particles of earth and dried sweat, and whatever else has accumulated during weeks of wear. You work methodically, section by section, your hands moving in steady rhythm, pressing down hard, feeling the resistance of wet leather against stone. The sound is soft but constant, the whisper of wet hide on rock, the splash of water dripping back into the river, the rustle of your own breathing as you work. Your shoulders begin to ache after a few minutes. Your knees, pressing into the hard rock, send complaints up to your awareness. Your hands, immersed repeatedly in the cold water, grow numb, the skin reddening, the joints stiffening. But you continue. This is necessary work. After perhaps 20 minutes of scrubbing, you pick up the skin and beat it against the rock. This is the oldest cleaning technique humans know: impact. The sharp slap of wet leather against stone, repeated again and again, drives water through the material, dislodging embedded dirt through sheer force. Slap, slap, slap. The rhythm is almost meditative, the sound echoing slightly across the quiet river. Water sprays with each impact, catching the morning light, creating brief rainbows that vanish as quickly as they form. You rinse the skin in the river again, holding it in the current, letting the flowing water carry away the dirt you've loosened. The water runs grey for a moment, then clears. You lift the skin, examine it. It's cleaner marginally. The worst of the visible dirt is gone. It smells less offensive, more of wet leather and river water, less of old sweat and body odour. This is as clean as it will get. This is good enough. Now comes the hardest part: wringing. You twist the skin, gripping it with both hands, rotating your hands in opposite directions, watching water stream out in a steady flow. Your forearms burn with the effort. The wet leather resists, wanting to stay saturated, but you persist, twisting harder, squeezing, wringing, until no more water emerges. Your hands ache, your wrists ache, your shoulders ache, but the skin is now damp rather than soaking, which means it will dry in hours instead of days. You drape the skin over a bush in the sun, spreading it flat so air can reach both sides. The morning sun is warm now, and you can feel heat beginning to penetrate the chill that's settled into your bones from the cold water. You'll check the skin periodically through the day, turning it, moving it if the sun shifts. By evening, if the weather holds, it will be dry enough to wear again. Not clean, not by any absolute standard, but clean enough, functional, bearable. This is washing at its most basic. No soap, no chemicals, no tools except water, stone, and muscle. This is how humans cleaned their clothing, their animal skins, their earliest woven plant fibres for tens of thousands of years. The method varied little from place to place, culture to culture. A river or stream, a flat rock or riverbank, cold water, bare hands, patient scrubbing, beating, rinsing, wringing, drying. The details changed, but the essential process remained the same. You perform this task weekly, perhaps, when weather permits. In winter, when the river freezes or runs too cold to bear, you wash less. The skins grow stiff and rank, and you simply endure, knowing that spring will come and you'll be able to clean them again. In summer, you wash more often, the heat making sweat-soaked clothing unbearable, the river water less agonizing to immerse your hands in. This routine, this simple, brutal, essential routine, is shared by every human community that exists. Somewhere, right now, in this prehistoric world, thousands of women are kneeling beside rivers and lakes, scrubbing skins and plant fibre cloth, beating them on rocks, wringing them with aching hands. This task is one of the few human universals, as constant as cooking, as necessary as breathing. It's invisible labour, unglamorous, unrecorded, but absolutely essential. Without it, clothing becomes unwearable, disease spreads, life becomes even harder than it already is. The sun climbs higher. You finish with the deerskin tunic and begin on another item, a fur cloak even heavier when wet. The process repeats. Dunk, scrub, beat, rinse, wring, spread to dry. Your hands are beyond cold now, past feeling, moving automatically through motions you've performed thousands of times. The ache in your back has settled into a dull, constant pain. but the work continues until it's done. By midday, perhaps 5 or 6 items hang drying on bushes and rocks near the river. You sit for a moment, resting, your hands hanging limp in your lap, water still dripping from your arms. Other women from your group are nearby, doing the same work, each at her own spot along the river. Occasionally someone calls out, a comment, a joke, a warning about a difficult stain. But mostly, everyone works in silence, conserved energy focused on the physical task. This scene, this moment, this exact sequence of actions will be repeated countless billions of times over the coming millennia. The clothing will change, from skins to woven fibres to complex textiles. The tools will improve, wooden paddles, soap, washing boards, machines. But the fundamental reality will remain. Clothes get dirty, clothes must be cleaned, cleaning requires water and effort and time. The burden will fall almost entirely on women, their days punctuated by this endless cycle of washing, rinsing, wringing, drying, the same motions repeated until their hands are permanently scarred, their backs permanently bent, their lives defined partly by this one relentless task. The discovery of soap time passes, centuries blur together. You find yourself now in ancient Mesopotamia, in the region between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Around the year 2500 BCE, human civilization has advanced, cities exist now. Writing has been invented, agriculture feeds large populations, and clothing has evolved. Woven linen and wool, not just animal skins, fabric that can be intricate and beautiful, but that also gets dirty in new and challenging ways. You're standing in a courtyard, watching a woman prepare for washing day. She's discovered something, or rather, her grandmother's grandmother discovered it, and passed the knowledge down. Certain substances make water clean better. Wood ash, specifically. The grey powder left after wood burns contains something. She doesn't know it's called lye, doesn't understand the chemistry that makes grease and dirt dissolve more easily. Watch as she works. She has a clay pot, perhaps 2 feet tall, sitting in the courtyard. Into this pot she scoops ashes from yesterday's cooking fire, handful after handful, until the pot is half full. The ash is fine and light, drifting slightly in the morning breeze, coating her hands in grey dust. She coughs once, covering her mouth, then continues. Now she pours water into the pot, filling it nearly to the rim. The water drawn earlier from the river is cool and clear. As it mixes with the ash, it turns cloudy, grey, opaque. She stirs it with a stick, mixing thoroughly, making sure all the ash is wetted. Then she waits. This is important, the waiting. The lye must extract from the ash into the water, and this takes time, perhaps an hour, perhaps longer. While she waits, she sorts the laundry. Linen tunics, wool shawls, undergarments, headcloths, the family's accumulation of dirty fabric from the past week or two. She separates them roughly by colour and weight, darker items in one basket, lighter in another, heavy wool separate from delicate linen. The pile is substantial. Even a small household generates considerable washing. She returns to the ash pot. The ash has settled to the bottom now, forming a grey sludge, and the water above it has cleared somewhat, though it retains a pale grey tint. This water is now lye water, alkaline, caustic, effective at breaking down oils and dirt. She carefully pours it off into a large clay washing basin, leaving the ash sediment behind. The lye water will be reused for multiple items before it's exhausted. Now the washing begins. She takes a linen tunic, dunks it into the lye water, and begins working it with her hands. Squeezing, kneading, rubbing the fabric against itself, the lye water penetrating the fibres, reacting with the oils and dirt trapped there. The water quickly turns grey, then brown, as dirt leaches out. The smell is distinctive, sharp, alkaline, chemical, not pleasant, but not as awful as the smell of truly dirty clothes. Her hands are in the water for extended periods, and you can see the effect. The skin reddens, small cracks appear at her knuckles. The lye is harsh, burning slightly, but she's used to it. She's been doing this since she was a child, her hands scarred by years of exposure. She works methodically, each item receiving several minutes of attention, the worst stains receiving extra scrubbing, the fabric wrung out and examined, re-soaked if still dirty. After the lye washing comes rinsing, and this is critical. Lye left in fabric will continue to break down the fibres, weakening them, eventually rotting them. It also irritates skin, causing rashes and discomfort. So each item must be rinsed thoroughly, multiple times, in clean water drawn fresh from the river. This requires a second large basin and considerable water, and more time, more effort, more hands in cold water, more squeezing and wringing. The rinsing water, unlike the wash water, remains relatively clear, a good sign. She rinses each item 2 or 3 times, squeezing out the water between rinses until she's confident the lye is gone. You can see the judgment in her eyes, the accumulated experience telling her when enough is enough, when the fabric is safe to wear again. Finally, wringing. The items are soaking wet, incredibly heavy with absorbed water. She takes each one, grips it firmly, and twists with all her strength, watching water stream out in torrents. Her forearms show the strain, muscles standing out, tendons visible under skin. For larger items, a wool blanket, heavy and sodden, she calls for help, and another woman comes over. They grip opposite ends and twist in opposite directions, wringing the fabric between them like a rope, water pouring out, pooling on the courtyard stones, running away into drainage channels. The clean, damp laundry is carried to the rooftop, where it's spread on racks and ropes to dry in the sun. The Mesopotamian sun is fierce, and items dry quickly, though heavy wool might take a day or more. The woman arranges each piece carefully, spreading it to maximize air exposure, overlapping edges clamped with wooden pins or weighted with stones. This process, the ash lye preparation, the washing, the rinsing, the wringing, the drying, takes most of a day. Start at dawn, work through the morning and into the afternoon, finish in the evening exhausted, hands red and aching, back sore from bending over basins. This happens weekly or every 2 weeks, depending on the household's needs and the woman's capacity. It's one of the defining rhythms of domestic life, as regular as bread baking or water fetching, as inescapable as seasons. The discovery of lye water is a genuine advance. Clothes come cleaner than with water alone. The time spent scrubbing is somewhat reduced, but the cost is real. The lye burns hands, weakens fabric, requires careful handling and thorough rinsing, and it's still brutally hard work. Still hours of bending and scrubbing and wringing, still leaves women exhausted and aching. You watch as the woman finishes, wiping her wet hands on her own tunic, looking at the clothes drying on the roof with a mixture of satisfaction and resignation. Satisfaction because the work is done, the clothes are clean. Resignation because in a week or 2 the baskets will be full again, and she'll be back here in the courtyard, mixing ash and water, dunking fabric in lye, scrubbing until her hands bleed. The cycle is endless. The work never finishes. It only pauses. The Phalonica of Rome. Centuries pass, empires rise. You find yourself now in the great city of Rome at the height of its power, around the year 100 CE. The city teems with perhaps 1 million people, all of them wearing clothing, all of it getting dirty, all of it needing to be cleaned. But Rome has developed something new, professional laundries called Phulonicae, where clothing, especially wool togas and tunics, is cleaned, finished and returned to customers for a fee. You're standing outside a Phalonica in the morning, watching workers arrive. The building is larger than you expected, 2 stories, with large windows for ventilation and light. From inside comes noise, splashing water, rhythmic thumping, men's voices calling out in Latin. The smell is overwhelming even from outside. Urine, wet wool, clay, sulphur, a mixture so pungent it makes your eyes water. You step inside. The main room is dominated by large stone vats, perhaps 8 of them, arranged in rows. Each vat is maybe 5 feet across and 4 feet deep, filled with liquid, water mixed with urine and fuller's earth, a type of clay. And in each vat, standing barefoot in the liquid, stomping rhythmically, are workers, mostly men, mostly slaves or freedmen of the lowest social class. Watch them work. The stomping is the heart of the fulling process. Each worker has been assigned a vat and a quantity of wool clothing, perhaps a dozen tunics or several large togas. These items have already been soaked and now float in the vat's liquid. The worker stomps on them, his feet pressing down, the weight of his body forcing the liquid through the fabric fibres. He lifts his feet, the fabric rises slightly, he stomps again. Over and over, for hours. The rhythm is maintained by chanting. The workers call out in unison, keeping time, making the tedious work slightly more bearable through communal coordination. One man leads, the others respond, their voices echoing off the wet stone walls, mixing with the splash of water and the slap of feet on fabric. The smell is almost unbearable. Urine, collected from public urinals stationed around the city, purchased by the Phalonica operators, stored in large amphorae, is rich in ammonia, which breaks down oils and grease in wool. It works remarkably well, which is why it's used despite the stench. The fuller's earth adds absorbency, pulling dirt from the fibres. The combination, activated by hours of stomping, produces genuinely clean wool. But the price is paid in discomfort by the workers. You watch one man work. He's been stomping for perhaps 2 hours now, and the strain shows. His legs are pale and wrinkled from constant immersion, his feet raw, his face set in a mask of exhausted concentration. The liquid is cold, and despite the physical effort, he's shivering slightly. His legs ache, his feet hurt. But he continues, because to stop is to lose this job, and jobs are precious in Rome, even jobs this miserable. After several hours of stomping, the clothes are removed from the vats, wrung out by hand or with the help of simple wooden presses, and transferred to another area for rinsing. Clean water, drawn from Rome's famous aqueducts, fills rinse basins, and the clothes are soaked, agitated, wrung, soaked again, wrung again, the ammonia smell gradually fading, replaced by the cleaner smell of wet wool. Next comes bleaching. You follow the clothes to another room, where sulphur is burned in braziers, the clothes hung on racks above the smouldering sulphur, the fumes rising through the fabric, chemically bleaching it whiter. The sulphur smell is acrid, choking, and workers wear damp cloths over their faces, though this provides minimal protection. The sulphur fumes irritate lungs, cause coughing, contribute to chronic respiratory problems that plague laundry workers. After bleaching comes drying and finishing. The clothes are hung in airy rooms on the second floor, where sun and breeze dry them slowly. Once dry, they're stretched on wooden frames to restore their shape, then combed with brushes made from dried teasel plants, the hooked spines raising the nap of the wool, making it soft and fluffy. Finally, the clothes are folded, wrapped, and returned to customers. The entire process, from dirty toga to clean finished garment, takes days. The Phalonica processes hundreds of items per week, employing dozens of workers, generating substantial income for the owner, but only meagre wages for the workers themselves. The work is considered low status, suitable only for slaves or the desperate free poor, the kind of work no respectable Roman citizen would perform, but it's essential work, Rome's citizens expect to wear white togas, symbol of citizenship and status. White fabric, especially wool, doesn't stay white. It yellows, stains, absorbs sweat and dirt. Without the fulonicae, Rome's visual culture, its markers of status and identity, would collapse. So the fulonica workers stomp and rinse and bleach, their bodies sacrificed to maintain Rome's appearance. You watch the stompers in their vats, their legs moving rhythmically, their voices chanting, the smell of urine and wet wool thick in the air. This is what clean clothes cost in ancient Rome. Human beings standing for hours in cold, filthy water, breathing toxic fumes, their health slowly destroyed so that others can wear white. It's a bargain that the workers didn't choose, but it's the reality of their lives, as inescapable as the walls of the city itself. Evening approaches. The day's work slows. Workers climb out of the vats, their legs stiff, their feet wrinkled and tender. They wash themselves in cleaner water, trying to rid their skin of the urine smell. Though it's partly futile, the smell permeates everything, clings to hair and clothes and skin, marks them as laundry workers wherever they go. They eat a simple meal, sleep in crowded quarters, and wake at dawn to do it all again. The fulonica never stops. 6 days per week the vats are filled, the stomping begins, the clothes are processed. On the 7th day, maintenance, cleaning the vats, repairing equipment, restocking supplies of urine, and fuller's earth. Then the cycle begins again. Week after week, year after year, generation after generation. The individuals change, but the work remains the same. Medieval rivers. Time moves forward. The Roman Empire falls. The Dark Ages settle over Europe. Cities shrink. Knowledge is lost. But laundry continues because it must. You find yourself now beside a river in medieval France, perhaps the year 1200 CE, watching a group of women gather for washing day. The river is the centre of this community's laundry work. Here, where the river bends and forms a shallow pool with flat stones along the bank, women gather weekly to wash their families' clothes. There are perhaps a dozen women here this morning, ranging in age from young girls, learning the task, to elderly women whose hands are gnarled and scarred from decades of this work. The morning is cold, winter has passed, but spring is young, and the river water is barely above freezing. The women wear simple wool dresses, skirts tucked up to keep them dry, though they'll inevitably get wet anyway. Some wear wooden clogs, others go barefoot despite the cold, having learned that wet clogs are worse than bare feet on cold stone. Each woman has brought a basket of dirty laundry, clothing, bed linens, towels, rags, the accumulated dirt of her household. They spread their work areas along the riverbank, claiming flat stones, unpacking their supplies, balls of soap made from animal fat and wood ash, hard and greyish-brown, wooden paddles for beating clothes, wooden boards, early washboards with ridges carved into their surface for scrubbing. You kneel beside one woman watching her work. She begins by sorting her laundry, separating the items roughly by fabric and dirtiness. The dirtiest items, her husband's work tunic stained with mud and sweat, will be washed first while the water is freshest and the soap is strongest. Lighter items, less soiled, will come later. She dunks the tunic in the river, holds it under until it's thoroughly soaked, then lifts it out, water streaming back into the river. The fabric is heavy with absorbed water, dripping steadily. She places it on her flat stone and begins applying soap, rubbing the ball of soap directly onto the fabric, working up what little lather the soap produces. Now comes the scrubbing. She picks up her wooden board, holds it at an angle, and begins rubbing the fabric up and down against the ridged surface. The ridges catch the fabric, creating friction, the soap helping to break down oils and dirt. She scrubs vigorously, her arms moving in steady rhythm, the board held firmly, the fabric pressed hard against it. The motion is repetitive, almost meditative, but also exhausting, the muscles in her arms and shoulders burning after just a few minutes. For particularly dirty spots, a mud stain, a grass stain, dried blood, she pauses and works the area specifically, scrubbing harder, applying more soap, examining it to see if the stain is lightening. Medieval soap isn't very effective by modern standards. Many stains don't come out. She does her best, knowing that perfection is impossible, that clothes will remain somewhat stained, somewhat grey, no matter how hard she scrubs. After scrubbing comes beating. She lifts the tunic, holds it high, and brings it down hard against the flat stone. Slap. The sound echoes across the river. She lifts it again, brings it down from a different angle. Slap. Again. Again. The beating serves multiple purposes. It drives water and soap through the fabric. It loosens embedded dirt through impact. And it also simply satisfies. There's something viscerally gratifying about hitting something repeatedly when you're tired and cold and your hands hurt. The other women are working too, and the sounds layer together. The splash of fabric in water, the slap of clothes on stones, the scrape of wood on wet fabric, the occasional call or comment as someone discovers a particularly stubborn stain or shares a piece of gossip. The work is physically demanding and tedious, but it's also social, one of the few times these women gather together away from their homes and families. Rinsing requires multiple dunks in the river, squeezing the soapy water out, dunking again, squeezing, checking to see if soap remains. You can tell by the slipperiness, clean rinsed fabric has a different feel than fabric still containing soap. She rinses each item thoroughly, knowing that soap left in fabric can irritate skin and also attract more dirt later. Now comes wringing, and this is brutal work. She grips the tunic with both hands, twists as hard as she can, watching water pour out. Her hands are red and chapped from the cold water, and the wringing makes them ache terribly, the joints protesting, the muscles trembling. For larger items, sheets, heavy blankets, she calls to a neighbouring woman, and together they wring, each gripping one end, twisting in opposite directions, their combined strength forcing water from the fabric. Her hands, you notice, are permanently damaged. The knuckles are swollen and scarred, the skin is rough, cracked, with small cuts that never quite heal because they're immersed in water every week. Her fingernails are short and broken. These are the hands of a medieval washerwoman, marked by her labour, a testament to years of cold water and harsh soap and endless wringing. By midday she's finished. Her basket, now full of clean, damp clothes, is heavy, heavier than when she arrived, because the clothes are still wet despite the wringing. She hoists it onto her hip, balancing it carefully, and begins the walk home, perhaps half a mile. Other women do the same, the group dispersing, heading to their various homes and cottages. At home she hangs the clothes to dry. In good weather this means spreading them on hedges or bushes in the sun, or hanging them on lines strung between trees. In bad weather it means hanging them inside, near the fire, where they steam and fill the cottage with damp warmth and the smell of wet wool. Drying can take hours or days, depending on the weather, and until clothes are dry, they can't be worn. This means every household needs enough clothing to have some in use while others are being washed, which is expensive, a significant investment for poor families. The work is done for this week, but the relief is temporary. Already the family is generating dirty laundry, working, sweating, spilling food, tracking mud. By next week the basket will be full again, and she'll be back at the river, kneeling on the cold stones, scrubbing and beating and wringing until her hands are raw and her back aches and she's too tired to think. This is the medieval washerwoman's life. Week after week, year after year, from girlhood to old age, the cycle repeats. Her grandmother did this work, Her mother does this work, she does this work, her daughter will do this work. It's as inevitable as the river itself, flowing endlessly past, cold and clear and indifferent to the labour performed on its banks. Time moves forward again. Centuries accumulate slowly. You find yourself now in colonial America, in a modest farmhouse kitchen in Massachusetts, on a cold Monday morning in the year 1750. Monday is washing day, as it has been for generations, as it will be for generations more. The day of the week when a household's entire supply of dirty laundry must be cleaned, a day that every housewife dreads, a day that leaves women exhausted by evening. The age of the washboard. The kitchen is already warm from the fire burning in the large stone fireplace, but it will grow much warmer as the morning progresses, uncomfortably hot despite the winter cold outside. You watch as a woman, perhaps 30 years old, though she looks older, her face lined by labour and weather, begins her preparations. First, water must be heated. This is always the first step, and it's more labour-intensive than you might imagine. She's already made multiple trips to the well this morning, carrying wooden buckets, pouring them into large iron kettles that now hang on hooks over the fire. 3 kettles, each holding perhaps 4 gallons, suspended at different heights over the flames. The water will take an hour or more to heat properly, not boiling, which would damage fabrics, but hot enough that soap will dissolve and work effectively. While the water heats, she sorts the laundry. Piles accumulate on the wooden table, whites in one stack, or what passes for whites, linen shirts, cotton chemises, sheets, all now greyish from use and previous washings, coloured fabrics in another, dyed wool skirts, calico dresses, print aprons, heavy work clothes in a third, her husband's canvas work trousers, leather work aprons, thick wool socks. The sorting is important. Whites will be washed first, in the hottest, cleanest water, with the strongest soap. Coloured fabrics next, in water that's still fairly clean. Work clothes last, in water that's already grey with dirt, because they're too dirty to waste good water on. The water begins to steam. She tests it with her finger, hot but bearable. Now she must transport it from the fire kettles to the wash tubs. This requires care. The kettles are heavy, full of near-boiling water, suspended over an open fire. She uses thick rags to protect her hands, lifts the kettle's handle, carries it carefully to the first wooden wash tub, a large barrel cut in half sitting on a wooden stand. She pours the hot water splashing into the tub, steam rising in clouds, condensing on her face and arms. 3 trips, 3 kettles, and the first tub is full enough for washing. Now soap. She takes a hard cake of lye soap, homemade golden brown, rough textured, and uses a knife to shave curls from it into the hot water. The curls float for a moment, then begin to soften and dissolve, releasing their sharp chemical scent. She swirls the water with her hand, distributing the soap, testing the slickness. Good. Ready. But now comes the innovation, the tool that makes this era's washing slightly less brutal than what came before, the washboard. This particular washboard is a flat piece of pine wood, perhaps 18 inches tall and 12 inches wide, with a surface of closely spaced ridges running horizontally across it. The ridges are made of glass, actual glass, embedded in the wood, creating a scrubbing surface that's both smooth and textured, harder than wood, more durable. She positions the washboard in the tub, leaning it against the far side at an angle, the ridged surface facing her, the bottom edge submerged in the hot, soapy water. Now she takes the first item from the whites pile, a man's linen shirt, and submerges it completely, letting it soak for a minute, absorbing water and soap. Then she lifts it, dripping, and drapes it over the washboard. The motion is specific, practiced from years of repetition. She grips the wet shirt with both hands and rubs it up and down against the washboard's ridges. Down, the fabric catches on the ridges. Up, the fabric slides more smoothly. Down, up, down, up. The rhythm is steady, hypnotic. Her arms move mechanically, the muscles in her shoulders and back engaging with each stroke. The ridges do their work, catching the fabric, creating friction far more effectively than smooth stone or smooth wood ever could, loosening the dirt trapped in the linen's weave. She works section by section, moving the shirt on the washboard to ensure every part is scrubbed. Collars and cuffs, the dirtiest parts, stained with sweat and body oils, receive extra attention, scrubbed until her arms ache, examined critically, scrubbed more if needed. The water around the washboard grows grey as dirt releases from the fabric, swirling in the tub, mixing with the soap. After perhaps 5 minutes of scrubbing, she wrings the shirt, gripping it tightly, twisting hard, water streaming back into the tub, and tosses it into a second tub filled with cooler rinse water. Then the next item from the whites pile. Another shirt. More scrubbing, the same up and down motion, the same rhythm. Down, up, down, up. The sound is constant, the slosh of water, the wet friction of fabric on glass ridges, the splash of wrung-out clothes landing in the rinse tub. The work is hot, literally hot. The steam from the wash water rises constantly, condensing on her face, her arms, her hair. Moisture drips from her forehead. Her dress clings damply to her back. The fire in the fireplace continues to burn, necessary to keep heating more water. She'll need multiple tubs of hot water before the day is done, but making the kitchen stifling. Outside it's perhaps 30 degrees. Inside it must be 80 or more near the wash tubs. Her hands are in hot, soapy water constantly, or handling wet fabric, or gripping the rough cloth to wring it. Within an hour her hands are red, slightly swollen, the skin softened and wrinkled from prolonged water exposure. The soap is harsh, lye-based, alkaline, stripping oils from her skin, and her hands will be cracked and sore by evening. She knows this. She's experienced it every Monday for years. But there's no alternative. Washing must be done, and this is how it's done. The whites take perhaps 2 hours, shirt after shirt, chemise after chemise, sheet after sheet, scrubbed, wrung, rinsed, wrung again, transferred to a basket. The wash water grows progressively dirtier, grey turning to brown, the soap's effectiveness diminishing. When it becomes too filthy to continue, she carries the tub outside, heavy, awkward, the dirty water sloshing, and dumps it on the kitchen garden where the nutrients will benefit the soil. Then back to the fire for more hot water, more soap, the cycle beginning again with the coloured fabrics. The coloured pile takes another 2 hours. By now it's early afternoon. She's been working since dawn, 6 hours of continuous scrubbing, wringing, lifting, pouring. Her shoulders ache. Her lower back aches. Her hands are beyond red, approaching raw. But she continues because the work clothes remain, and they must be washed before dark. The work clothes are the worst. They're not just dirty, they're filthy, caked with mud and manure, stained with grease and God knows what else, stiff with dried sweat. She doesn't even try to use the washboard for these. Instead, she fills a tub with hot water, adds extra soap, dumps in the work clothes, and uses a wooden stick, a retired broom handle, to stir and agitate them, beating them against the sides of the tub, letting them soak for a while, beating them again. For particularly stubborn stains, she removes an item, lays it on a flat wooden board, and beats it with a wooden paddle. Much like medieval washerwomen beat clothes on stones, the oldest technique still the most effective for the dirtiest clothes. Thwack, thwack, thwack. The sound echoes through the kitchen, primitive and satisfying, each impact driving soap and water through the fabric, loosening embedded dirt through sheer force. By mid-afternoon, the washing is complete. But the work isn't over. Now comes the rinsing, a crucial step, more important than many realise. Every item must be rinsed at least twice, preferably 3 times, in clean cold water to remove all traces of soap. Soap left in fabric attracts dirt, makes clothes feel stiff and uncomfortable, and can irritate skin. So she works through the baskets, item by item, dunking and swirling in the rinse water, squeezing, dunking again, checking by feel to ensure all slipperiness is gone. The final wringing is the most exhausting part. Every item must be wrung as dry as possible because wet clothes take forever to dry, and tomorrow she needs to be able to iron some of them, which requires they be only slightly damp. She wrings until her hands cramp, twisting the fabric into tight spirals, watching water pour out in streams, wringing until no more water emerges. For sheets and large items her daughter helps, a girl of perhaps 12, learning the skill she'll use for the rest of her life, the two of them gripping opposite ends, twisting in opposite directions, the fabric taut between them, water dripping steadily. Finally, drying. In good weather this means carrying the baskets outside to the clothesline, rope strung between posts in the yard, and pinning items up with wooden clothespins, spacing them to allow air circulation. But it's winter and freezing outside, so indoor drying is necessary. Wet clothes are draped over chairs, hung on lines strung across the kitchen, laid flat on tables, spread anywhere there's space. The house fills with dampness, the smell of wet wool and linen, the fire's heat slowly evaporating the moisture over hours and hours. By evening she's finished. The kitchen is a shambles, puddles on the floor, the washtubs still needing to be emptied and cleaned, wet clothes draped everywhere. She's exhausted, her back screaming, her hands throbbing. But the laundry is clean, or as clean as it's going to get, and that will have to be enough. She collapses into a chair near the fire, too tired even to prepare supper properly. Her husband and children will make do with bread and cheese tonight. Her hands rest in her lap, red and swollen, and she stares at them for a moment, at the cracks and scars, at the permanent damage from years of Monday washings. Tomorrow they'll hurt even more. By Wednesday they'll begin to heal slightly. By next Monday they'll be subjected to the same abuse again. This is washing day in colonial America. This is what clean clothes cost. An entire day of brutal labour, women's bodies sacrificed to the endless necessity of cleanliness. The washboard is an improvement over pure hand scrubbing, yes, but it's still exhausting, still painful, still something women dread. And it will continue this way for another century, with only minor improvements until machines finally arrive to ease the burden. The first mechanical dreamers. Time passes. The 19th century dawns. The Industrial Revolution transforms manufacturing, transportation, agriculture. Surely some inventors think machines could be designed to wash clothes, to ease this terrible burden on women. And so the experimentation begins. You find yourself now in upstate New York in 1851, standing in a barn that's been converted to a workshop, watching a man demonstrate his invention to a skeptical audience of farmers and their wives. The invention is a washing machine, one of the first, crude and clumsy, but representing a genuine attempt to mechanize laundry. The machine is essentially a large wooden barrel, perhaps 3 feet tall and 2 feet in diameter, mounted horizontally on a sturdy wooden frame so it can rotate. Inside the barrel, wooden paddles are attached to the inner surface, protruding inward. A crank handle extends from one end, connected to gears that rotate the barrel. The concept is simple. Fill the barrel with hot water, soap and clothes, seal it, turn the crank to rotate it, and the tumbling action combined with the paddles will agitate the clothes and clean them. The inventor, a carpenter with ambitions of commercial success, demonstrates. He fills the barrel through a hatch in the side, pouring in hot water from a bucket. Note that the water still must be heated separately, still must be carried, then adds soap shavings, then loads a pile of clothes. He seals the hatch with a wooden lid held tight by metal clasps, ensuring no water leaks during rotation. Now he begins cranking. The handle turns, the gears engage, the barrel starts to rotate. Slowly at first, gaining momentum, the barrel makes complete revolutions, the water and clothes tumbling inside. You can hear the slosh and thump of the contents, the creak of wood and metal, the slight groaning of the frame, taking the weight and motion. The inventor cranks steadily, maintaining a rhythm. The watching wives look sceptical. They can see the effort required. Cranking a heavy barrel full of water and wet clothes is hard work, perhaps no easier than scrubbing by hand. The inventor continues, demonstrating for perhaps 10 minutes. In actual use, he claims, you'd crank for 15 to 20 minutes, then stops, opens the hatch, and pulls out a shirt to show the results. The shirt is cleaner, noticeably so. Not perfectly clean, but better than it was, and achieved without hand scrubbing every inch. The agitation, the paddles, the tumbling action, it works, at least somewhat. But the audience remains sceptical. The machine is expensive, $15, more than a month's wages for a labourer. It's large and awkward, requiring dedicated space. It still requires heating and hauling water. It doesn't rinse or wring, those steps must still be done by hand. And the cranking is exhausting, possibly more exhausting than scrubbing, especially for larger loads. One wife asks the question on everyone's mind: is it really easier than what we're already doing? The inventor hesitates, then admits, it's different. It saves wear on your hands. You're cranking instead of scrubbing, but it's still work, yes. This scene repeats itself across America and Europe through the mid-1800s. Dozens of inventors patent washing machine designs, barrel washers, rocker washers, plunger washers, each claiming to revolutionize laundry. Some work tolerably well, most don't. All require physical effort to operate, and all are expensive, limiting their adoption to the relatively wealthy. You find yourself now in a different home in Ohio in 1875, where a family has actually purchased a hand-crank washing machine. A different design than the barrel, this one using a plunger mechanism. The machine is a large metal tub, perhaps 2 feet across and 2 feet deep, sitting on a wooden stand. From the top extends a plunger, a cone-shaped agitator on the end of a long pole, connected to a lever mechanism. Operating the lever moves the plunger up and down inside the tub, creating a pulsing agitation. The housewife, who's used this machine for 6 months now, demonstrates. She fills the tub with hot water and soap, loads clothes, then begins working the lever. Push down, the plunger descends into the tub, forcing water through the clothes. Pull up, the plunger rises, sucking water back through. Down, up, the rhythm becoming automatic, the motion easier than cranking a barrel, but still requiring sustained effort. She works the lever for 15 minutes, then stops to inspect the clothes. They're cleaner, yes, but not as clean as they'd be with hand scrubbing. She's learned that heavily soiled items still need pre-treatment, rubbing soap directly on stains, scrubbing them by hand on her old washboard before putting them in the machine. The machine handles the bulk of the work, the general agitation and soaking, but human judgment and handwork are still necessary for proper results. And then there's the wringing. The machine doesn't wring at all. That step remains entirely manual, and it's still the most exhausting part. Some manufacturers are beginning to offer separate hand crank wringers, devices with 2 rollers that squeeze clothes between them, extracting water far more efficiently than hand wringing. But these are additional purchases, additional expense, and they come with their own problems. You watch as she demonstrates her wringer, purchased at considerable cost. It's mounted on a wooden stand with 2 rubber-coated rollers positioned horizontally, one above the other, perhaps 3 inches apart. A large hand crank on the side, connected by gears to the top roller, allows her to rotate the rollers in opposite directions. The bottom roller is spring-mounted, allowing the gap between rollers to adjust automatically based on the thickness of fabric being fed through. She takes a wet shirt from the washing tub, feeds one edge between the rollers, and begins cranking. The rollers grip the fabric and pull it through, squeezing hard, water streaming out in a steady flow back into the tub. The shirt emerges on the other side flattened and much drier than hand-wringing could achieve. It's impressive, genuinely helpful, but it requires care. Feed the fabric in straight, crank at a steady pace, watch that buttons don't catch and break. And there's danger. She explains, almost casually, that a neighbour woman caught her hand in her wringer last month, the rollers pulling her fingers between them, crushing them before she could release the crank and activate the safety release lever. 2 fingers broken, weeks of recovery, permanent stiffness. You have to be careful, she says, demonstrating the safety release, a lever that, when pulled, springs the top roller upward, releasing whatever's caught between the rollers. But when you're tired, when you're not paying attention, that's when accidents happen. Despite the dangers and limitations, these early mechanical washing machines and wringers represent real progress. The physical burden of wash day is somewhat reduced. The wear on women's hands is somewhat lessened. It's still an all-day task, still exhausting, but marginally less brutal than pure hand labour. And for women wealthy enough to afford these machines, that marginal improvement is welcome, even if it's far from the revolution the inventors promised. Steam and industry. You find yourself now inside an entirely different world, a commercial steam laundry in Chicago in 1895. This is not a home with a single hand crank machine. This is industrial scale washing, a building 4 stories tall, employing 200 workers, processing thousands of pounds of laundry per week. The noise hits you first, a constant roar of machinery, steam pipes hissing, metal clanging, voices shouting to be heard above the din. The heat hits you next. The building is maintained at perhaps 90 degrees, the humidity approaching 100%, creating an atmosphere like a tropical jungle, moisture condensing on walls and ceilings and dripping steadily. You're on the main washing floor, a vast open space filled with machinery. At one end, massive rotating wash drums, each perhaps 6 feet in diameter, made of perforated metal, rotate continuously, powered by steam engines in the basement, their drive shafts and belts running up through the floor. Workers feed dirty laundry into these drums through hatches, the drums already filled with hot water and soap, the rotation providing agitation on a scale impossible to achieve by hand. Watch the workers, mostly women, mostly immigrants, Irish and Italian and Polish, speaking a babel of languages mixed with shouted English. They work in teams, sorting incoming laundry at long tables, separating by colour and fabric type, checking pockets for forgotten items, marking particularly difficult stains for pre-treatment. The pre-treatment is done by hand, women scrubbing stubborn stains with brushes and strong soap at sinks with running hot water. A luxury in this era, but necessary for commercial operations. The sorted laundry is loaded into wheeled carts and pushed to the wash drums. A worker opens a drum's hatch, quickly shovels in the contents of a cart, perhaps 50 pounds of linens, then slams the hatch closed and latches it. The drum continues rotating, water and soap and laundry tumbling inside, the mechanical action far more vigorous than any hand agitation could produce. The drums run for perhaps 15 to 20 minutes, then are stopped, drained, refilled with rinse water, and run again. After rinsing, they're drained again, and the laundry is extracted, still quite wet, but ready for the wringers. The wringers in this facility are not the small hand crank devices used in homes. These are industrial machines, powered by steam, with rollers as thick as a man's leg, exerting hundreds of pounds of pressure. Workers feed items into these ringers carefully, the rollers pulling the fabric through at a steady pace, water streaming out in torrents into collection troughs below. The extraction is far more complete than any hand-wringing, the clothes emerging damp rather than dripping, but the work is dangerous. You watch as a woman feeds sheets into the wringer, her hands coming dangerously close to the rollers with each item. The rollers are unforgiving. If fabric catches wrong, if her hand slips, the rollers will grab and pull, crushing whatever gets between them. There's an emergency stop bar she can hit with her knee, but reactions must be instant. Accidents happen monthly in this facility. Fingers crushed, hands mangled, sometimes worse. The workers know the risks, but they need the jobs, need the wages, so they continue, trying to be careful, hoping not to be the next victim. From the ringers, the laundry goes to the drying room on the 3rd floor. Here, massive steam-heated drying cabinets and rotating drums dry the clothes, using hot air blown by large fans. The heat is extreme, well over 100 degrees, and workers here take frequent breaks in cooler areas, drinking water constantly to avoid heat exhaustion. The smell is overwhelming. Damp fabric, soap, steam, sweat, all mixed together in the thick, humid air. Finally, the dried laundry goes to the ironing floor on the 4th floor, where rows of women work at ironing stations, pressing shirts and sheets and tablecloths with heavy flat irons heated on gas stoves, their arms moving in steady rhythm hour after hour. The ironers are considered the skilled workers here, paid slightly more than the washers and sorters, but their work is also physically demanding, standing all day, lifting heavy irons, breathing the steam from damp fabric hitting hot metal. The finished laundry is folded, packaged, and prepared for delivery. Horse-drawn wagons wait in the alley behind the building, drivers loading bundles for delivery to hotels, restaurants, wealthy homes, hospitals. The laundry goes out clean, comes back dirty, the cycle repeating endlessly, the machinery running 6 days a week, the workers arriving at dawn, leaving at dusk, their wages barely enough to survive, their bodies gradually broken by the heat and humidity and dangerous machinery. For customers, the commercial laundry is a convenience worth paying for. Send out your dirty clothes, receive them back clean and ironed, without spending your own day scrubbing and wringing. For workers, it's brutal employment, slightly better than domestic service or factory work, but still exhausting and dangerous. The Industrial Revolution has mechanized washing, yes, but the human cost is substantial. The electric revolution arrives. Time moves forward again. The 20th century dawns, bringing electricity to cities and gradually to homes. New possibilities emerge. You find yourself now in a comfortable middle-class home in Cleveland, Ohio, in the year 1920, watching a demonstration of something remarkable, an electric washing machine designed for home use. The salesman has brought the machine in a truck, carried it into the basement laundry area with the help of the household's handyman, and now he's explaining its operation to the lady of the house and her skeptical husband. The machine is imposing, a round tub made of copper, about 2 feet in diameter and 2 feet deep, sitting on 4 metal legs with wheels for mobility. The tub is enclosed in a white-painted metal cabinet, giving it a clean, modern appearance. At the top, attached to the tub's rim, is a wringer, 2 rollers with a hand crank, but the salesman emphasizes that some models now offer powered wringers. The most remarkable feature is beneath, an electric motor, maybe half a horsepower, connected to a mechanism that drives an agitator inside the tub. The agitator is a vertical post with fins positioned in the center of the tub, and when the motor runs, the agitator oscillates back and forth, swishing the water and clothes in alternating directions. The salesman begins his demonstration. He fills the tub using a hose connected to the basement sink. Note that the machine itself has no water connection, must be filled and drained manually, and adds soap flakes from a box, the flakes dissolving quickly in the hot water. Then he loads a small quantity of dirty clothes, dish towels, aprons, a few shirts, ensuring not to overload, as too much laundry will strain the motor. Now comes the moment of magic. He plugs the machine into an electrical outlet, flips a switch mounted on the side of the cabinet, and the motor starts. The sound is surprisingly loud, a steady hum with a mechanical clicking from the agitator mechanism. The agitator begins moving, swishing back and forth, perhaps one full oscillation per second, creating a vigorous, sloshing sound inside the tub. The watching couple is impressed despite themselves. The agitation is more vigorous than any hand crank machine could produce, certainly more sustained than human cranking. The salesman lets it run for 10 minutes, then switches it off, opens the tub lid, and extracts a towel to demonstrate the results. The towel is cleaner, noticeably cleaner, the stains faded or gone, the fabric refreshed. And all without any cranking, without physical effort beyond loading and unloading. But the price is steep. $120, equivalent to several months' wages for a working man. The husband balks, thinking of the cost. The wife is calculating differently, thinking of every Monday she's spent at the washtubs, her hands red and aching, her back sore, the sheer exhausting drudgery of wash day. She wants this machine. She needs this machine. They negotiate, discussing payment terms. The company offers installment plans, $10 down, $5 per month for 2 years. This makes it conceivable, barely affordable. They agree, and the salesman promises delivery within the week, along with installation and operation instruction. A week later, you find yourself back in this home, watching the wife use her new electric washing machine for the first time. It's Monday morning, washing day, but the atmosphere is different, tinged with excitement, with hope that this dreaded day might be less terrible. She begins with the familiar tasks, sorting laundry, heating water on the stove. The machine has no built-in heater. Hot water must still be heated and carried, preparing soap. But then, instead of bending over a washtub with a washboard, instead of scrubbing until her arms ache, she simply loads the clothes into the machine's tub, adds the hot water and soap, closes the lid, and switches on the motor. The machine runs, doing the work she would have done by hand. She can walk away, attend to other tasks, return periodically to check progress. After 15 minutes, she stops the machine, drains it using a hose at the bottom, the water flowing into a floor drain, refills with rinse water from the sink, runs it again. The rinsing is much more thorough than hand rinsing, the agitation ensuring soap is fully removed. Then comes the wringing. The machine's wringer is hand cranked, not powered in this model, so this step still requires physical effort and careful attention. She feeds each item between the rollers, cranks steadily, watches the water stream out. The rollers do their job well, extracting far more water than hand wringing ever could. But the danger is real. She's been warned repeatedly, keep your hands away from the rollers, feed the fabric in straight, be ready to hit the release lever if anything catches wrong. By early afternoon, her washing is complete. The total time is perhaps 5 hours compared to the 8 or 10 hours of her old wash days. The physical exhaustion is much less. No hours of scrubbing, no constant wringing by hand. Her hands are less damaged, though still wet and soap softened. Her back aches less. She's tired, yes, but not destroyed, not collapsed in a chair, exhausted as she used to be. This, she thinks, is worth the money. This is worth $5 per month for 2 years. This machine has given her back part of her life, part of her energy, part of her body's capacity that was being ground away every Monday. It's not perfect. The wringing is still dangerous, the process still labour-intensive, the Monday dread still real, but it's better. Significantly, meaningfully better. Over the following months and years, she becomes expert in the machine's operation and quirks. She learns the optimal load size, too little, and the agitation is inefficient, too much, and the motor strains. She learns which fabrics can tolerate vigorous agitation and which need gentler treatment. She learns to listen to the motor's sound, detecting when something is wrong, a bearing wearing out, a belt slipping, before catastrophic failure occurs. And she lives in fear of the machine breaking down. Repairs are expensive. If the motor burns out, replacement might cost $30 or $40, money the family doesn't have. She's heard stories of machines breaking after a year or two, companies going out of business, parts unavailable, families forced to return to hand washing. So she maintains the machine carefully, cleaning it after each use, following the instruction manual's guidance, treating it like the valuable investment it is. Depression and desperation. The 1920s proceed. More families acquire electric washing machines. The technology improves incrementally. Motors become more reliable, wringers become powered on better models, tubs become slightly larger. Wash day for those who own machines becomes notably less brutal, though still far from easy. But then disaster strikes. October 1929, the stock market crashes, the Great Depression begins. You find yourself now in a small town in Kansas in 1933, the depth of the Depression, standing in a kitchen where an electric washing machine sits silent and broken. The family who owns it can't afford to repair it. The motor burned out months ago. A repairman quoted $35 for parts and labour, money they simply don't have. With the husband's factory job lost, the family surviving on odd jobs and relief payments. So the woman has returned to the old ways. The wash tubs are back, brought up from the cellar. The washboard is back, its glass ridges still functional despite years of disuse. She makes her own soap now, cooking it in the big wash kettle from saved cooking. Grease, water, and lye bought at the general store for pennies. The soap is harsh, barely works, but it's what they can afford. Washing day is brutal again, as brutal as it was before the machine, perhaps more so because she's grown unaccustomed to the physical labour, her body shocked by the sudden return to scrubbing and wringing and aching muscles. She does the washing outside now when weather permits, trying to save the heating fuel for cooking. Cold water makes the soap barely work at all, makes her hands ache and redden and crack. But she's not alone in this reverting to old methods. Across America, across the world, the Depression has forced families backward. Machines break and aren't repaired. Electricity is sometimes turned off when bills can't be paid. Commercial laundries close as customers vanish. Women return to wash tubs, to rivers, to the oldest methods, making do with what they have, enduring because they must. You watch her work through a Monday in June, the sun hot, the work exhausting. She scrubs clothes on her washboard, the motions automatic from decades of practice, though her muscles have softened during the years of machine washing and now protest the renewed labour. She wrings by hand, her hands cramping but persisting. She hangs clothes on the line, grateful at least for good drying weather. By evening she's exhausted, collapsed in a chair, her hands throbbing, wondering how much longer this will last, how much longer she can endure. But the clothes are clean, or clean enough. Life continues. The wash gets done, because it must. The Depression will eventually end, prosperity will return, machines will be repaired or replaced. But for now, in this moment, in millions of homes, women are bent over wash tubs again, their hands red and raw, their backs aching, washing clothes the same way their great-grandmothers did, the promise of mechanization temporarily withdrawn, the old labour reasserted. Post-war miracles. The war comes, then ends. Prosperity returns greater than before. Factories that built war machines retool to build consumer goods. And among those goods, revolutionizing domestic life, is the automatic washing machine. You find yourself now in a suburban home outside Detroit in 1952, standing in a bright basement laundry room, watching a housewife use her brand new, fully automatic washing machine. The machine is beautiful by the standards of this era: white enamel cabinet, streamlined design with rounded corners, chrome trim, a large glass window in the top that allows viewing of the wash in progress. It sits beside its companion appliance, an automatic dryer, together representing the complete mechanization of laundry. The woman explains the machine to you with barely contained excitement. She's had it for 3 weeks, and it's changed her life, genuinely changed her life in ways she's still discovering. The machine is fully automatic, meaning once you load it and set the controls, it completes the entire wash cycle without any intervention, filling itself with water, heating the water with a built-in electric heating element, washing, draining, rinsing, spinning, all automatically. She demonstrates opening the top loading lid to reveal the tub inside, a cylindrical drum perhaps 18 inches in diameter, made of white porcelain-coated steel with hundreds of small perforations. Inside the drum is an agitator, similar to earlier machines but more sophisticated, with curved fins designed to create optimal water circulation. The tub sits inside a larger stationary tub, the space between the two allowing water to drain and the inner tub to spin during the spin cycle. She loads clothes into the drum, perhaps 10 pounds of mixed laundry, whites and light colours. She adds detergent, not soap but synthetic detergent, a new product formulated specifically for automatic washers, producing fewer suds, working better in hard water. The detergent goes into a dispenser on the agitator, where it will be released at the optimal moment. Now she sets the controls. The machine has a dial with perhaps 10 settings: wash temperature, hot, warm, cold, wash time, light, normal, heavy, rinse temperature, spin speed. She sets it for hot wash, normal time, cold rinse, normal spin, a standard setting for everyday laundry. Then she closes the lid and the machine begins automatically. Water begins flowing in, and she explains that the machine is connected directly to the house's hot and cold water lines, mixing them to achieve the selected temperature. The water rises to the correct level, determined by a pressure sensor that stops the fill valve when the proper amount is present. The agitator starts, moving back and forth vigorously, more agitation than older machines, the curved fins creating a rolling action that pulls clothes down into the water, circulates them through the agitator's centre, pushes them back up. A continuous circulation far more effective than simple back and forth swishing. The wash cycle runs for perhaps 12 minutes, visible through the glass window. Clothes tumbling and swirling in the water, suds forming and dissipating, the relentless agitation working out dirt. Then the machine stops, the drain pump activates, and you can hear the water draining away into the standpipe connected to the house's drain system. Once drained, the spin cycle begins. This is the revolution, the feature that eliminates the dangerous wringer. The inner drum begins rotating, slowly at first, then faster, up to perhaps 600 revolutions per minute, centrifugal force pressing the clothes against the drum's perforated walls, forcing water out through the perforations, the water flowing into the outer tub and draining away. The spin creates serious vibration. The whole machine shakes slightly, producing a loud rumbling sound, but it's stabilized by springs and dampers, kept from walking across the floor. After perhaps 2 minutes of spinning, the drum slows and stops. The machine refills with cold rinse water, agitates for a few minutes to rinse out detergent, drains, spins again. Then the cycle completes, the machine falls silent, and a bell rings to signal the laundry is done. The woman opens the lid and removes the clothes. They're damp but not dripping, far drier than wrung clothes, ready for the dryer. She transfers them to the dryer next door, sets its timer for 45 minutes, starts it, and walks upstairs. In less than an hour, the clothes will be completely clean and dry, ready to fold and put away. The total time she's actually spent on this load. Perhaps 5 minutes of active work, loading, adding detergent, setting controls, transferring to dryer, unloading when done. She explains what this means for her life. Monday is no longer wash day, not in the old sense. She does laundry several times per week now, smaller loads, whenever enough dirty clothes accumulate. Each load takes about 90 minutes from start to finish. Wash cycle, dry cycle, folding, but only minutes of her actual attention. She can start a load before breakfast, transfer it to the dryer mid-morning, fold it after lunch, all while doing other housework, caring for children, living her life. Her hands are no longer permanently damaged. Her back doesn't ache from Monday washing. The dread is gone. Laundry has transformed from a brutal all-day ordeal into a minor routine task, still necessary, still work, but manageable, tolerable, no longer defining her week. The machine cost $300, a substantial sum, but within reach for middle-class families and worth every penny. Worth it for the time saved, the energy preserved, the body protected. This, she says, is what progress looks like. But there are new problems to learn. The machine is complex, with many moving parts that can break: timers, valves, pumps, motors, transmissions. Repairs are frequent and expensive. She's already had the repairman out once, replacing a worn drive belt, the service call costing $15. She worries about major breakdowns, about the washing machine and dryer both breaking simultaneously, about the cost of replacement. And there's the learning curve. Different fabrics require different settings. She's accidentally shrunk a wool sweater by washing it in hot water. She's learned that delicate items need gentle cycles. She's learned to sort loads by colour rigorously, one red sock in a white load, and everything turns pink. The machines are powerful, convenient, but also unforgiving of mistakes in ways hand washing never was. Still, she wouldn't go back, couldn't imagine going back to the old ways. This is the future, and it's arrived in her basement, humming and spinning, cleaning her family's clothes while she lives her life. The revolution is complete. The 1950s flow into the 1960s. The automatic washing machine becomes standard in American suburban homes, as expected as a refrigerator or stove. But the technology continues evolving, refining, responding to new fabrics, new detergents, new understanding of what clean means and how to achieve it. The age of synthetics. You find yourself now in a laundry room in 1968, watching a housewife sort clothes with more care than her mother ever needed. The reason is simple: the clothes themselves have changed. Cotton and wool still exist, but now they're joined by polyester, nylon, acrylic, rayon, synthetic fibres created in chemical laboratories, spun into fabrics with properties natural fibres never possessed. These synthetics don't shrink like wool, don't wrinkle like cotton, dry faster, resist stains better, but they also require different washing approaches. The woman holds up a polyester shirt, checking the label sewn into the collar. The label is new, mandated by recent regulations, providing care instructions in standardized symbols and text. Machine wash warm, tumble dry low, do not bleach. She's learned to read these labels carefully, to sort laundry not just by colour and soil level, but by fabric type and care requirements. Her washing machine reflects this new complexity. It's a newer model than the 1952 machine we observed earlier, with more cycles and options. The control dial offers settings for permanent press, a cycle designed specifically for synthetic fabrics, using warm water and a cool-down period before spinning to prevent wrinkles from setting. There's a delicate cycle with gentler agitation and slower spinning. There's a pre-soak option for heavily soiled items. The machine has become more sophisticated, responding to the diversification of fabrics and laundry needs. She loads a mixed load of permanent press items, polyester work shirts, cotton blend trousers, synthetic fibre blouses. She adds detergent, but not the same detergent her mother used. This is a newer formulation, enzyme enhanced, designed to break down protein stains at lower temperatures, working effectively in warm or even cold water. The box promises whiter whites, brighter brights, claims that seem partially true, though whites still gradually yellow over time, despite the promises. She also adds something new: fabric softener, poured into a dispenser that will release it during the rinse cycle. Fabric softener is a recent innovation, a chemical compound that coats fibres, making them feel softer, reducing static cling. A problem particularly severe with synthetic fabrics, which generate static electricity in the dryer. The softener smells floral, artificially pleasant, a scent that will cling to the clothes and persist for days. The machine runs through its permanent press cycle, and you observe the differences from earlier machines. The agitation is more controlled, less violent, designed not to twist and stress the fabrics. After the wash and rinse, there's a cool-down spray, cold water sprayed on the clothes while they spin slowly, gradually reducing temperature before the final high-speed spin. This temperature reduction prevents heat-set wrinkles in synthetic fabrics, one of those small innovations that seem obvious only after someone invents them. When the cycle completes, she transfers the clothes to the dryer, which also has a permanent press setting, lower heat than regular drying, followed by a cool-down period and then an extended tumble with no heat to prevent wrinkles from setting as the clothes cool. The dryer has a lint trap that must be cleaned after each load, a filter catching the fibres shed during drying, a small maintenance task that's become routine. 40 minutes later, she removes the clothes from the dryer. They're clean, dry, and largely wrinkle-free, requiring minimal or no ironing. Permanent Press has delivered on its promise: easy care clothing that doesn't need the hours of ironing that cotton and linen required. The time savings compound: less time washing, less time drying, and dramatically less time ironing. Her grandmother spent hours every week with hot irons, pressing shirts and sheets. She rarely irons at all, and when she does, it's only for special occasions. But there are trade-offs, though she doesn't think about them much. The synthetic fabrics don't breathe like natural fibres, making them less comfortable in heat. The detergents and fabric softeners, with their complex chemical formulations, wash down the drain into rivers and lakes, accumulating, affecting aquatic life in ways that won't be fully understood for decades. The convenience comes with costs, invisible for now, deferred to the future. The laundromat. Not everyone owns a washing machine. In cities, in apartment buildings without laundry hookups, in households too poor to afford machines, people do their washing elsewhere. You find yourself now in a laundromat in Brooklyn, New York, on a Sunday afternoon in 1975, watching the weekly ritual of communal washing. The laundromat occupies a storefront on a busy street, its large windows revealing rows of washing machines and dryers, fluorescent lights bright even in daylight, a permanently moist warmth radiating from the building. You enter, and the smell hits immediately. Detergent, fabric softener, the slightly musty odour of damp concrete, human bodies in a crowded space. The room is perhaps 50 feet long, 30 feet wide, lined on both sides with machines. On the left, maybe 20 washing machines, all identical, white metal front-loading machines with round glass doors, coin slots on top, simple mechanical timers. On the right, matching dryers, also coin-operated. Down the centre of the room runs a long folding table, formica-topped, with plastic chairs scattered around. Vending machines in the back dispense detergent, fabric softener, bleach, snacks and sodas. A change machine converts dollar bills into quarters, the currency of this realm. The machines are commercial models, larger and more rugged than home machines, designed to withstand heavy use and minimal maintenance. They're front loaders rather than top loaders, which allows them to be stacked vertically in small spaces and also uses less water, an important consideration when you're paying for water and sewer by the gallon. The front-loading design creates a different washing action. Instead of an agitator in the centre, the drum itself rotates, lifting clothes and dropping them repeatedly, gravity and water combining to clean. You watch a young woman with 3 small children begin her laundry process. She's hauled 4 large bags of dirty clothes on the subway, a weekly ordeal she endures because her apartment building has no laundry facilities. She starts by sorting at the folding table, creating piles, whites, colours, heavy items, delicates. Her children help by playing with the clothes, occasionally tossing items between piles randomly, and she patiently resorts. She loads 3 washers simultaneously, maximising efficiency. Doing all her laundry in one trip requires multiple machines running at once. She adds detergent from a box she's brought from home, cheaper than buying from the vending machine. Then comes the feeding of quarters. Each washer requires 6 quarters, $1.50 per load, and she counts them carefully from a plastic container, inserting them one by one into the coin slot, then pulling the slot's plunger to start the machine. The washers fill with water, cold water because hot costs extra quarters, and cold works fine with modern detergents, or so she tells herself. The drums begin rotating, slowly at first, establishing rhythm, then faster, the clothes tumbling through the water, visible through the round glass doors. The sound is substantial. 20 machines running simultaneously create a low roar, punctuated by the higher-pitched hum of spinning cycles. The clunk of drums changing direction, the occasional off-balance thud when a heavy item creates uneven weight distribution. She settles into a chair to wait. 30 minutes for the wash cycle. Her children run around, supervised loosely, playing games around the folding table, occasionally scolded when they get too loud or too close to other people's laundry. She's brought homework. She's taking night classes, trying to get a degree, a path toward better employment, and she attempts to study, though the noise and the children make concentration difficult. Around her, the laundromat's social ecosystem operates. Regulars recognise each other, nod, occasionally chat. There's an unwritten code of conduct. Don't touch other people's laundry unless it's been abandoned for an unreasonable time. Don't hog machines when others are waiting. Do remove your clothes promptly when cycles complete. Clean the lint trap in the dryer you use. These rules are mostly observed, occasionally violated, sometimes enforced through pointed comments, or rarely confrontation. An older man sits reading a newspaper, his washing in progress, a Sunday ritual he's maintained for decades. A young couple folds their laundry together, talking quietly, intimate in public. The mundane task, somehow romantic in their newlywed attention to each other. A middle-aged woman sleeps in a chair, exhausted from a night shift, trusting the timer in her head to wake her when her washing is done. The washers complete their cycles, falling silent, and the woman loads her clothes into dryers. 3 dryers to match the 3 washers. More quarters, 8 per dryer for 45 minutes, 2 point towels per load. The dryers are simpler machines, just heated air and a rotating drum, but they're essential. Without them, she'd have to hang clothes in her tiny apartment, which would take days to dry and make the place unbearably humid. While the dryers run, she watches her children, helps the oldest with shoelaces, prevents the youngest from climbing on the folding table. Time passes slowly here. The fluorescent lights are harsh, the heat from the dryers oppressive, the noise constant. But this is part of life's rhythm, a weekly task that must be accomplished, and she's learned to simply endure it, to bring homework or a book, to make the time pass somehow. Finally, the dryers finish. She pulls out the clothes, hot and dry, and begins folding at the long table. This part is almost pleasant, the warmth of fresh dried clothes in her hands, the satisfaction of transforming rumpled fabric into neat stacks. She folds quickly, practiced, sorting as she goes, one pile for her clothes, separate piles for each child, everything organised for efficient put-away when she gets home. The folded laundry goes back into the bags, now heavy with clean clothes instead of dirty. She gathers her children, gathers the bags, and heads back to the subway, hauling everything home, the weekly laundry expedition complete. Total cost, perhaps $10 for washing and drying. Total time, about 3 hours from leaving home to returning. It's expensive and time-consuming, and she dreams of someday having her own machines in her own home, the luxury of doing laundry in her pyjamas whenever she wants, without quarters, without travel, without the noise and the crowds and the fluorescent lights. The laundromat will remain a fixture of urban life through the coming decades, serving those without machines, those without space, those without money for the upfront cost of appliance ownership. It's a communal space, utilitarian and unglamorous, but essential to millions. A place where the task of cleaning clothes intersects with the patterns of city life, poverty, community, and endurance. Modern sophistication time moves forward. You find yourself now in a suburban home in 1995, standing before a washing machine that would seem impossibly advanced to the housewife of 1952. The machine is a front-loader, styled in white with smooth curves and a large circular glass door that dominates its front. The control panel features an array of buttons and a digital display, glowing blue-green in the dim light of the laundry room. The owner demonstrates the machine's capabilities with evident pride. This model is high efficiency, using perhaps a third of the water that older top-loading machines require. The front-loading design enables this efficiency by tumbling clothes through a small amount of water rather than submerging them in a full tub. The machine achieves cleaning with far less water and energy. It's also gentler on clothes, reducing wear, extending garment life. The control panel offers a bewildering array of options: wash temperature, hot, warm eco, warm, cold; spin speed, high, medium, low, no spin; soil level, heavy, normal, light; fabric type, cotton, synthetic, delicate, wool, hand wash; special cycles, sanitize, allergen, steam refresh, quick wash. The complexity is almost overwhelming, though the machine also has a normal setting that handles most loads adequately. She loads the machine, opening the large front door and placing clothes into the horizontal drum. The drum's interior is stainless steel, perforated with small holes, with raised baffles that lift and tumble the clothes during rotation. She adds detergent, high-efficiency detergent, specifically formulated for these machines, producing fewer suds because excessive suds interfere with the tumbling action. She sets the controls, selects cotton, heavy soil, hot wash, high spin, and presses start. The door locks automatically, a safety feature preventing the door from opening mid-cycle, and the machine begins its operation. Water starts flowing in, but only a small amount, perhaps 2 gallons barely visible through the door. The drum begins rotating slowly at first, the clothes tumbling through the shallow water, becoming saturated through repeated exposure rather than through submersion. The wash action is mesmerizing to watch through the large glass door. The drum rotates forward for several seconds, lifting clothes and dropping them, then pauses, then rotates backward, creating a complex tumbling pattern that continually redistributes the load, ensuring all items are washed evenly. The computer controlling the machine varies the pattern, sometimes long rotations, sometimes short bursts, sometimes pauses, optimizing washing based on algorithms developed through extensive testing. After the wash phase, the machine drains and begins the spin cycle, and this is where front loaders excel. The drum accelerates to perhaps 1/200 RPM, far faster than top loaders can achieve, the centrifugal force enormous, extracting more water from the clothes than any previous technology. The machine vibrates noticeably despite sophisticated suspension systems, producing a sound like a distant jet engine, but within tolerance, within design parameters. The cycle completes in about an hour, the door unlocks and she removes the clothes. They're barely damp, far drier than clothes from a top loader, which means less time in the dryer, more energy savings. The cumulative efficiency is substantial. This machine uses 60% less water and 50% less energy than the machine it replaced, savings that accumulate into hundreds of dollars over the machine's lifetime. But the machine cost $900, significantly more than a basic top loader. And it's complex, with electronic controls that can fail, a drain pump that can clog, door seals that can develop mould if not cleaned regularly. She's learned to leave the door ajar between uses, allowing the drum and seals to dry, preventing the musty smell that plagued early front-loader adopters. She's learned to use the correct amount of detergent. Too much creates residue, too little leaves clothes less clean. The machine requires more attention, more maintenance, more understanding than simpler machines, but the trade-off seems worthwhile. The digital age. You find yourself now in 2015 in a modern home, looking at machines that would seem like science fiction to previous generations. The washing machine and dryer are sleek, styled in stainless steel and black glass, with digital touchscreen controls that glow softly in the darkness. But more remarkable than their appearance is their connectivity. These machines are connected to the home's Wi-Fi network, controllable remotely via smartphone app, integrated into the emerging Internet of Things. The owner demonstrates the smartphone app. She can start or stop the washer remotely, receive notifications when cycles complete, diagnose error codes, download new wash cycles as the manufacturer develops them. The machine has sensors that detect load size and automatically adjust water levels, detect fabric type, and adjust agitation, detect soil level, and extend or shorten wash time accordingly. The optimization is continuous, adaptive, learning over time. But for all this sophistication, you observe something interesting. The fundamental function remains unchanged. The machine still washes clothes by agitating them in water with detergent. The technology surrounding this function has become incredibly advanced, but the core process, water, soap, mechanical action, rinsing, spinning, is the same as it was in 1952 or 1920, or in some ways the same as it was in medieval rivers. The efficiency has improved, the convenience has increased, the automation is more complete, but the basic task remains constant. She loads clothes, adds detergent to an automatic dispenser that will release it at the optimal moment, closes the door, and taps a few options on the touchscreen. The machine begins quietly. Modern machines are far quieter than their predecessors, with advanced sound dampening, insulation, and carefully balanced components. The cycle will take 90 minutes, and she can monitor its progress on her phone from anywhere in the house, receiving an alert when it's time to transfer clothes to the dryer. The dryer, too, has become sophisticated. It has moisture sensors that detect when clothes are dry and automatically stop the cycle, preventing over-drying that wastes energy and damages fabric. It has steam cycles that refresh clothes without washing, wrinkle prevention modes that periodically tumble clothes after the cycle ends to prevent wrinkles from setting. It can dry a mixed load, some items that need more drying, some that need less, and achieve optimal results for all, the sensors discriminating between fabric types and moisture levels. Yet despite all this advancement, laundry remains work. Clothes must be sorted, loaded, transferred from washer to dryer, unloaded, folded, put away. The machines have eliminated the brutal physical labour, the scrubbing, the wringing, the aching hands and backs, but they haven't eliminated the task itself, the time investment, the mental load of remembering to do it, managing it, keeping up with the endless accumulation of dirty clothes. The world beyond you, step back now, considering a broader perspective. In wealthy countries, automatic washing machines are nearly universal, taken for granted, as expected as running water or electricity. But elsewhere the reality is different, starkly different. You find yourself beside a river in rural India, watching women wash clothes exactly as their ancestors did centuries ago. They kneel on flat stones at the river's edge, beating clothes against the rocks, the same slapping rhythm that has echoed beside rivers for millennia. They use soap now, commercial bars of laundry soap, cheaply made, but the method is ancient. Wet the cloth, apply soap, beat it on the stone, rinse in the river, wring by hand, spread on rocks or bushes to dry in the sun. The work is exhausting, time-consuming, damaging to hands and backs. These women spend hours every few days washing their families' clothes, squatting or kneeling in cold river water, their hands cracked from soap and constant wetness, their backs permanently bent from decades of this posture. They know that machines exist. They've seen them in cities, in wealthy homes, on television. But machines are impossibly expensive, require electricity they don't have, require space in homes too small to accommodate them, require a level of prosperity that remains beyond reach. Similar scenes play out across the developing world, in rural Africa, Southeast Asia, Latin America. Billions of people still wash clothes by hand, in rivers, in buckets, at communal washing places, using methods that have changed little in centuries. The global inequality in domestic labour is stark. A woman in New York can wash a week's laundry in 90 minutes with minimal effort, while a woman in a rural village spends half a day every few days performing back-breaking labour to achieve inferior results. This inequality extends beyond individual hardship. The time women in developing countries spend on laundry and other domestic tasks is time they can't spend on education, on income-generating work, on rest, on activities that might improve their circumstances. The compounding effects are substantial. Less education leads to fewer opportunities, lower incomes, continued poverty, the cycle perpetuating across generations. Night in the laundry room. It is late now. You find yourself standing in a quiet laundry room, the house silent around you, the hour approaching midnight. The washing machine sits against the wall, white and still, its door closed, its control panel dark. The dryer beside it is equally quiet, waiting. A basket of clean folded clothes sits on top of the dryer, waiting to be carried upstairs and put away, but that can wait until morning. You stand in this quiet space, and the history you've witnessed washes over you like a gentle tide. 20,000 years ago, humans kneeling beside cold rivers, beating animal skins on stones, their hands numb, their survival dependent on this simple labour. The discovery of lye, burning hands but cleaning better. Roman slaves, stomping in vats of urine for hours, their legs pale and wrinkled, their status low, their work essential. Medieval washerwomen at rivers, scrubbing on wooden boards, the endless weekly rhythm of washing and rinsing and wringing, the centuries of pure hand labour, women's hands permanently scarred, backs permanently bent, bodies sacrificed to the necessity of clean clothes. The first crude machines, hand-cranked, exhausting to operate, only marginally better than hand-washing. The electric machines, revolutionary in their time, still requiring dangerous wringers, still half a day's work. The automatic machines, truly transformative, finally freeing women from the worst of the labour, returning time and energy and health to their lives. The sophistication of modern machines, sensors and computers and smartphone connectivity, achieving optimal results with minimal human intervention, yet still, fundamentally, performing the same task. Cleaning clothes, the endless battle against dirt and stains and sweat, the necessity that has driven billions of hours of human labour across all of recorded history. You can almost hear it if you listen carefully, an echo of all those sounds. The splash of water in rivers, the slap of wet cloth on stones, the scrape of scrubbing on washboards, the creak of hand cranks, the hum of early electric motors, the swish of agitators, the rumble of spin cycles, the beep of digital alerts. All of it layered, compressed, a symphony of washing, spanning millennia, all focused on this moment, this quiet room, this machine waiting silently for tomorrow's laundry. Somewhere in the apartment building, someone is still doing laundry at this late hour. You can hear it faintly, the distant hum of a washing machine, muffled by walls and floors, rhythmic and steady, a lullaby of sorts. The sound is reassuring somehow, proof that life continues, that the ordinary tasks persist, that someone else is also awake, also tending to the small necessities of domestic life. The clean clothes in the basket smell faintly of detergent, a synthetic floral scent engineered in a laboratory to signal cleanliness. You run your hand over a folded towel, feeling its softness, the result of fabric softener, the fibres coated with chemicals designed to make them feel pleasant to touch. The towel is clean, genuinely clean, in a way that would have amazed your ancestors, free of dirt and stains and bacteria, washed in hot water and detergent, rinsed thoroughly, dried completely, all accomplished in less time than it would have taken a medieval washerwoman to wash a single item. The history feels complete now. The long journey from riverstones to digital machines, from brutal hand labour to push-button convenience. The machines have given back time, health, energy. They've freed mostly women, though some men too, from one of history's most relentless forms of drudgery. The cost has been measured in environmental impact, in energy consumption, in the complexity and occasional frustration of maintaining sophisticated machines. But the trade-off has been worth it for those who have access to these technologies. You are drifting now, the story settling into your mind like sediment in still water. The laundry will keep until morning. The basket of clean clothes will wait. The washing machine will sit silent through the night, ready to work when needed, a quiet servant that never complains, never tires, never asks for anything except electricity and water and detergent. The distant hum of that other washing machine continues, steady and hypnotic, a heartbeat of domestic life in the sleeping building. Hum and rumble, pause, hum and rumble again. The rhythm is ancient, even though the machine is modern, the rhythm of cleaning, of renewal, of taking the soiled and making it fresh, the rhythm humans have followed for as long as we've worn clothes, for as long as we've cared about being clean. Rest now. The washing is done. The story is complete. From rivers to machines, from dawn to midnight, from back-breaking labour to effortless automation, the journey is over. The clothes are clean. The machine is quiet. Tomorrow will bring more laundry, as it always does, as it always has. But tonight there is only rest, only the gentle drift towards sleep, only the distant sound of water and machines, lulling you, carrying you, washing away the day's thoughts like soap washing away dirt, leaving only clean, peaceful emptiness, soft and gentle as fresh dried sheets, warm and comforting as clothes from the dryer, pulling you down into sleep, into dreams, into the quiet that waits at the end of every day's washing. The machine hums. You drift. The night holds everything softly. Sleep comes.